some women say to me, "Oh, you're so brave, doing this at home." And I think, conversely, they're so brave putting themselves in somebody else's hand. Yes, like bring it through me, but my bones were moving, this pressure going down through me, and it was exquisite, and it was like excruciating, and it was too much to bear, and it was gorgeous.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. Today we are discussing Becca's home birth story in Kerala. There are some people for whom birth can be all empowering. In fact, for many, many women, birth is all empowering and transcendental. It was the same for Becca. She always knew she wanted a home birth and she had a great experience at that. A free birth with just her partner. Becca is a coach, a cognitive hypnotherapist, and energy healer who works one-to-one with people. Her area of interests are now more aligned with pregnancy and birth as a powerful tool of healing, which it is. Let us see now how her birth was transcendental for her. And that's why universe showed you the path to motherhood. It was pretty much that. So it's that story is also in itself very, very powerful, where you were pulled into this place and where motherhood was there for you.
Motherhood surrounded me before I got pregnant. When I was in India already, babies began finding me, but animal babies. So one day I ended up with 4 puppies that needed to be taken care of, then kittens. Okay, everywhere I went, people were saying to me, "You go everywhere in a cloud of animals." And it was just this theme. It was like the universe was preparing me in a gentle way for motherhood to arrive.
So, Becca, tell us about your journey of pregnancy, how it began.
How it began, the journey of pregnancy. Well, a series of twists and turns is probably the best way to describe it. I had been in Italy for a summer in 2019 running transformative yoga retreats. At the end of the summer, I felt really called to India, and I followed my heart, my instinct, my intuition, which is how I live. I wait for the ping, ding, this is where you're going, and off I went. So it packed me 6 kilograms of luggage and yoga pants, basically, and set off to Rishikesh. And I did my advanced Kundalini yoga teacher training there. That was my plan. And then basically it was very cold in the north. I could see my breath at night time, and I'd been working so hard. I wanted a holiday. So the stars aligned. A friend of mine was down in Kerala. Got myself down there. Spent some time on the beach. Ended up staying in Kerala. Long story short, for a prolonged period of time. We're talking with the pandemic and the world changing. I ended up staying in India a lot longer than I was anticipating. I was expecting to be there a few months. Spent my time in India in this deep practice, really tuning into who I was, with no contact from anyone else, really, but working online still. So I then ended up suddenly getting a ping, you need to move house. I moved house via a friend of a friend assisted me based on a dream that I'd had. Very long story in a nutshell. I ended up living in the house which I dreamed that I was going to move to. And on the second night of being there, somebody was cooking me dinner against my will because I wanted to be on my own. I was all grumpy about it. And the person cooking me dinner ran out of gas. So someone turned up with a gas canister. He was 6'4" and very handsome. And that is Pravi. That's Ruby's father.
Yeah.
So we met and very quickly fell in love. We ended up moving in together and very quickly ended up pregnant. So within 2 months of knowing each other, our daughter was conceived. So that was incredibly big news. So that's how I found myself pregnant. And I began messaging people at home who thought it was a joke. Like,
Right.
you're joking, right? And I said to Pravy, I said, I'm pregnant. I could feel it in every cell of my body. And he said, what? And I said, I know, I'm pregnant. So he was really excited and he went off to get a pregnancy test. We took the test and a very, very faint line came up. And then what I realized, because I'm not au fait with any of these things, I have no experience with pregnancy tests. I realized because I'd drank 3 liters of water that morning, the test wasn't showing any kind of hormone levels.
Yeah.
So we had to wait 2 days. Then the test came back as confirmed. At 6 weeks, I think it was. Boom, you are pregnant. And it was just this moment of, oh, wow. Oh my goodness. And because my life is very much one of, I hear the ping and I go, oh, we're doing this now, are we? And that might be, oh, you're off to the jungle, or you're moving to this, you're moving to Egypt, or you're going to live in Thailand, or any of these. And now we're going to do plant medicine ceremony. I just went, oh, okay, we're doing this now then. And Barry was absolutely delighted, like, oh, I'm going to be a father, I'm going to be a father. And I was just very much like, oh, okay, cool. Right, we're doing that then.
That's lovely.
And there began the journey. Then it became, okay, this is a very real human thing now. I'm responsible for a baby. What do I need to do now? What are the next steps?
Right.
And that's when it got interesting because, of course, I'm in India. I'm not Indian. This is a very foreign culture in terms of my understanding of the prenatal system and midwifery and all of those things from the UK. Whilst home birth isn't very common, I still think it's quite uncommon for people to have home birth. It's very possible. It's part of the system. And you go to your doctor's appointments and you set your intention to have your birth at home, and the midwife supports you at home.
And this is in the UK?
That's in the UK. So that was what was in my head. Oh, okay, I can just do that then, and that would be wonderful. And then we started exploring. And of course, no, that was not possible. So in terms of prenatal care, my first question really was, what is available to me here? Because I can't leave. But it was really, I'd say, one of the most challenging things I'd ever been through, because there began this whole whirlwind tour of India trying to figure out where we were going to birth this baby. So we were in South Kerala. I knew immediately I didn't want a hospital birth. I knew that immediately. I was just like, absolutely not.
Was that Becca after a few prenatal visits, or was it just instinctively you knew you didn't want to go?
Instinctively, in my heart, just as soon as I was pregnant, I was like, ooh, because we already were in this COVID scenario.
Right.
Going to a hospital, everyone in masks, and just, it's not my environment, not through fear, but just through the idea. Some women say to me, oh, you're so brave, doing this at home. And I think, conversely, they're so brave putting themselves in somebody else's hands. And I think that depends on the level of responsibility that you're used to taking for yourself. Now, I've always taken radical responsibility for myself, for my own health, for my own well-being. I don't go to the doctor. I never get sick. I mean, thank God. It just didn't feel right. But we had to go to the hospital. So the first thing we did at 6 weeks, we went to the hospital because I thought, where do we start? So there isn't a local clinic where we are. We chose to go to a private hospital, which was about an hour away from home, based on a couple of other people we'd spoken to. I didn't know anyone, but my partner knew people who'd had babies. So there were government hospitals nearby, but we went to a private hospital. And so I've sat down in this waiting room. We've been there 2 hours, just waiting. Now, where I come from, the system's so efficient. It's like, right, okay, if you're 10 minutes late, someone's complaining. But we're there 2 hours, it's boiling hot. I'm starting to feel a bit unwell. Looking all around, everyone's staring at me because I'm the only white person there. Obviously, it's just like, really, what is this woman doing here and who is she? And by the time we went in to see the doctor, the obstetrician, I sat down, she looked at me and she went, what's your problem, basically? And she's speaking with a thick Malayalam accent, so I can't understand her. And she's saying through this violent way to Pfizer, what's your problem? And Previ sort of says to me, so I'm like, can you please translate for me what she's, because I can't hear her. Plastic. And I said, I don't have a problem. I'm delighted I'm pregnant. And she was like, oh, how far gone do you think you are? And I explained, and she was very much like, oh, wow, it's still very early. And I was like, oh, how deflating is this?
Yeah.
And then they basically, her and her assistant spoke only to my partner after that, not to me, addressed their questions to him. I was informed that I was very old to be having a baby at 39, very old. They began to start diagnosing me with all of the things that could possibly go wrong. I was told very, very old, 39. I would have to have tests for Down syndrome. I would have to have all of those screenings for genetic problems. And it just went on and on. They just started grooming me there and then and infantilizing me as if I didn't understand my own body and my own process. There was no question of self-empowerment or allowing me to make my own choices. It was, this is the routine and this is what's going to happen. And every time I asked a question, it was the equivalent of sit down and shut up. So me saying, well, are the tests mandatory here? Can you prove to me that no harm will occur to my child based on scanning, which I have evidence to the contrary? Can you tell me the benefits of having a diabetes test and all of that glucose going into my system? Yeah. And it was absolute shock and horror. And at that point, I think she was looking at me like, oh, you're going to be a problem. And I was looking at her going, this is not going to work.
Yeah, even she's not used to people asking the very basic questions that they should be in the first place giving answers to you, because they're offering you a service, and that's how the entire system is not working. They're offering you a service. All these tests should be explained to the mother. She should be sat, if she's sitting you down, then she should look at you as an individual and not a number, not a statistic, another statistic. And that's how prenatal care has gone, in the sense that it's pretty much not seeing anything in a human being.
I felt like a cow. I felt like an animal. It was very much like, go over there, remove your clothes. No consent was asked to touch my body, poking and prodding me. It was really, really, I felt violated. And that's my personal feeling on this. And I know that some women very accepting of this, and they feel like this is part of the process, and lucky me that someone's helping me and that can save me for any problems that are going to happen. But my beliefs are very different to that. My beliefs are, I know what's going on with my body, and please offer me the service that I'm paying for with respect and dignity, and consult me on the decisions that you're making for me and my child. What really started to absolutely confound me was this idea that someone else felt that they could tell me what I could do with the baby in my own body, like how this child was going to come from my body and where. It was astounding. As time went on, it started to feel like there's this dystopian novel called The Handmaid's Tale. It was made into a series. And it's like, you're this body as part of the system, and you will be moved around and given a number, and you will do as you're told, where you're told, and your own feelings won't matter. But in that moment, I knew, I would die fighting for what I wanted in this situation. Like, I was prepared to take those. I get goosebumps even thinking about it. But that was my first experience of advocating for my baby to have a non-violent birth, to have the birth that's going to set her up for her lifetime. And I knew what I wanted, and I felt that was it. Brought out in me the mama lion. It was like, right, this isn't me you're fighting now. This is my daughter's future, and how dare you get between me and that? And that's how I felt. My partner at the time was just like, okay, all right, okay. So you feel really strongly about this then, Becca. Yeah. And so that's how it unfolded. That was the journey. We had 2 more appointments. I mean, we were in this lockdown, so it was like being a naughty child. We had to get a permission slip to go out in the car, go on this horrendous trip to the hospital to be poked and prodded and told things about myself that was simply not true, and just
And not motivating at all, not emotionally empowering at all.
in a way having to do like an energetic cleanse from what I'd experienced, because it was so the hospital was just full of fear. And I understand everybody there is, again, doing the best that they can with the training they've got and the knowledge they've got. They really believe they're doing the best thing. They do. And I honour that. But I can also choose to say, I'm sovereign. I step away from that. My choice is not this anymore. So I got to 20 weeks. I had 3 appointments, I think. Enough to have a paper trail because I'd done my research and I understood after the birth, someone needed to see me pregnant and be able to verify that I had been pregnant in order to give our child the certificate of live birth that we were going to need, which was particularly important because obviously I need to leave India at some point. So then goes the process of birth certificates and passports.
Right. So for all the paperwork, you needed someone to see you pregnant so that they can testify that you were pregnant, you had a baby, and then you could apply for papers.
Yeah, and so after war, every appointment felt like a war or a battle because it was them saying, you have to do this, you must. And me saying, please can you explain to me why I must and what are the benefits and what are the risks? And then becoming upset with me. And it was really, you're getting emotional with me about me asking for my own, just for clarity around what you're going to do to me and my unborn child now. I mean, they'd say to me things like, listen, it's up to you. We can't force you to take care of your baby.
But that's so contrary to what you were doing. You were actually taking care of your baby. You were actually asking the right questions.
I mean, at this point, what I didn't know about birth wasn't worth knowing. Because this is who I am and it's what I do. I mean, there's Virgo rising in here as well. So I've read 10 books at this point. I've watched 100 videos. I've educated myself on everything. I know what's coming in the schedule for the tests. I've researched the tests. I know what they do. I know what they don't do. And I've tuned into my body to see if I need them. And I didn't need them. And so I carried on. And as it happened, I had the most smooth, blissful pregnancy in terms of my physical body. I honestly don't have anything to complain about. I had no morning sickness. I had nothing, no negative symptoms at all. I just grew this beautiful baby. I did my practice every day. I drank my fresh juice. I was stressed because I'm trying to prepare for birth in a lockdown in a country that's not my own without anyone I know except Rabbi and the dogs. That was my challenge. But my body just did what nature intended perfectly.
Yeah. And for you, your baseline was for home births, your own country, because even if not common, you had seen home births.
My sister had home birth. I mean, a lot of my friends had home births. And that process means, even though, you are inviting the medical system into your house. That's what you're doing.
But the medical midwife is what you're saying.
Yeah. They have the same licensing requirements. They have to make the same decisions in terms of, your needs aren't necessarily going to come above their licensing requirements and their insurance and all of those things. So they will make decisions, I believe, based on what their training stipulates, which might override you. And that's what I'm saying. That system was set up, whereas it's not like that here. So
it is. Ironically, it was a few years ago, and still in the in the villages. Some parts of the villages which are not going to the hospitals anymore. But yes, industrialization has gone to the villages too. Here, I would like to ask you, Becca, did you also prepare yourself for home births with anybody? Did you do, apart from your own, like learning from books and from...
So I had some coaching sessions with Tassia. So I don't know what you'd call herself now, birth keeper or
traditional birth attendant or birth keeper,
educator. We had a few sessions with her, and largely that was for my partner to be able to really get comfortable with the idea. I mean, I just was like, right, I've got this, I'm doing it. And he said, okay, fine, I'm with you. But it was really good for him to be able to talk to her about his doubts and fears. She was very good at giving him lots of valuable information. We did some exercises together. She was great. I recommended her then to other people since, because it's a really valuable job she's doing.
She definitely is, especially in a country like India right now, being one of the only, I would say, traditional birth attendant here, at least in Delhi. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how I found her. I think I was up. And I just then went on Facebook, I think, and asked a few people, and someone just sent me her info. And I thought, right, that's my gift from the universe. I will get in touch. And she was fab. So she helped, yeah.
That's great. So then how did your labor began, if I could say? And also before that, was your partner always on board, or did he have some questions for mothers? I mean, just for the mothers to know that, partners would sometimes find it difficult to understand, and yeah.
He didn't find it difficult. I think from the very beginning, he just said, it's your body. I'm with you, whatever you want. I trust you. I've never met someone who is knows what they want as much as you, and I know that you would never do anything you want comfortable with. So I'm there. And he wanted to ensure that he was adequately educated and prepared. He wanted to know all the things that he needed to know. So between us, we educated ourselves, and we created a big file of what genuinely is an emergency and what to do in that situation in case I'm not compos mentis and I want to be just in my body and not in my head. And homeopathy and herbs, what to give me and when to give me a piece of placenta, when to give me a piece of cord, all of these things. And he's like great, we've made lists of this stage of labour requires these types of positions for comfort. If this happens, do this. We've got props. We've got yoga ball, a rebozo. We'd set up our room. We've made playlists. We had a fetal Doppler in case we felt we needed it. It just made us feel more comfortable.
Safe, yeah. Just the aspect of safety is also important.
Yeah, these are the things that made us prepared. And I had a TENS machine, and he learned how to use that and helped me with it. So he was just like, right, tell me what to do. How can we do it? So his job was basically coconut water, spoons of peanut butter, hip squeezes, the playlist, and keeping the pool warm when we put water in it. We also just went on Amazon and got a big pool, pool, and I went in there. So yeah, the labour began to unfold. It's 41 plus 1 in terms of the date we've been estimated for her due date. They'd gone 8 days over at this point, over the estimated due date. And I started to feel a contraction in the evening. And it was because the first time mother, you were I have no idea what I'm expecting here. What is this going to feel like? Is this going to tear me apart? Because I don't really have period pains. I'm really blessed in that sense. I don't have anything to compare it to. So the first contraction came, and it was a twang, a pulling. It wasn't pain. It just felt like a pulling sensation inside me. And I went, hello, woo, let's listen out for a few more of these. So I was right, we're on. So I had probably 10 of those come 5 minutes apart, quite early on. Oh, showtime. So I said to Pappy, right, that's it, baby's coming. All good, contractions coming. And they began to get closer together. And they got closer together. They were about 3 minutes apart then, and it continued to be about 3 minutes apart for the next 2 days.
Went on for 2 days.
For 2 solid days, I was going it's still manageable. Yeah, I'm okay, but it wasn't pain really for me. It was this very intense pulling sensation, almost like when you need to vomit and you're your body falls over. That was what I was experiencing, and it was 2 days of that. And what is happening with this? And as the time was going on, so Fabi had a few naps because, of course, 2 days had passed and 2 nights sleep, but I hadn't slept. I had just been working with these contractions.
But you were eating, you were hydrated. Yeah.
So he was bringing me coconut water, and I was having juices, and it's very important to stay hydrated. And but at this point I'd started, I wasn't really hungry for food. I didn't cook a meal as I'm every 10 seconds, convulsing over at this point. Well, it's every 3 minutes still. It was more like spoons of peanut butter, little energy balls that we'd prepared, high protein foods.
Yeah. Munching on food rather than having
Munching
it.
away, keeping the energy up because I hadn't slept. So what had happened at this point, I mean, I'm in an alternative universe at this point. I've transcended myself. And this for me isn't, it's not a shocking place for me because it's a state that I get into quite frequently. So at this point, I'm checked out. My body's doing what it's doing. Brevin's keeping an eye on me, but I'm with the stars. It's psychedelic. It's the most profound spiritual experience I've ever had of my life. Oh. Everything is communicating with me. I have no sense of self at all. It's just this ball of energy moving through me. All of the magic of the universe is dancing through me. Just pure love.
Did you have visions then?
Visions, yeah, visions. I mean, all I had was visions for basically 2 days. It was very shamanic, kind of Pachamama vibe of earth and spirits and the whole universe just communicating to me in love. It was just, I mean, I say it now, it's my favorite experience of my life. When people say, would you repeat your birth? They say, in a heartbeat. If I could repeat my birth, I would repeat it in a heartbeat, all 3 days of it.
Love that. And that's what we want to also tell mothers, that nature has not defined it to be a poor experience. There is something in it for the mother too, that we're not telling mothers.
Oh, sure, but literally DMT is released, the hormone DMT is released, the chemical in your body, which is opening up, removing these filters and letting you see reality in this way. At the same time, the baby experiences that as they're born, which is the most profound gift that you can experience. I mean, it's unreal. So I'm kind of like walking around the house, so probably some looking at you okay. He's never once asked me. He's helping me with hip squeezes if it's feeling too much pressure. The pressure's building at this point. I mean, the pressure is building, and as it's building, the world that I'm in is expanding more and more and more, and I'm less and less grounded in my body, and it's just bonkers, but I'm totally enjoying it. So it kind of got to this point when then the contractions started to get quicker. And then we were going, a couple of minutes apart, and it was a minute apart, over and over and over and over and over.
Then you were in active labor.
Then I was really in active labor. And that in itself was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. And then suddenly I found myself in transition, and I said to him, okay, now. Now it's showtime, like something. I have never experienced anything like that. I mean, you don't until you have a baby. No one can prepare. The power moving through my body in that moment. I was just like, yes, like bring it through me. But my bones were moving, this pressure going down through me, and it was exquisite, and it was like excruciating, and it was too much to bear, and it was gorgeous. It was just everything all at once. And Previ's really supporting me physically at this point. He's also on the playlist duty. So he's I didn't know this, I wasn't present. But he had this shamanic playlist and had these beautiful songs. I'm coming home. And actually, as our daughter was born, she was born to the words, Pasha Mama, I'm coming home. To the place
amazing.
So that was his intuitive playlist. It was the most profound thing. But I knew then, this is it. This is coming. And he had been prepped by me. If I say like, wow, this is getting too much, this is when the baby's coming. Mm-hmm. If I say that, if I've been brought to my knees and decimated, which by the way I asked for, I wanted that experience, that's when the baby's coming. So you need to be fully present and get me in the birthing pool because I want to have her in the water. So he's like, right. I'm like, I know, this is so well. It's so much. And he was like, right, let's get you in the pool. And I'm like, yeah, we're getting in the pool. I feel like so emotional just thinking about it. So we, he'd had the pool prepared. We got into the pool, which was just nearby, and my body just started to push my body was pushing itself, and I'm just there like, okay, this baby's coming, like she's going. And oh wow, this is oh my God, I can't control my body. And I was more back in my like prefrontal cortex. I was back in my consciousness a bit. I think the seriousness of it. And it was just me and him there. And I was like, no, I'm not dancing in the clouds right now. There's no one else here. We need to be really responsible for what's going on. So there was a bit of me where I kind of landed back in my head.
Yeah.
In the pool at this point, I'm finding my positions and I'm just letting my body do the work. And my body is impeccable at this point. It's just doing what it needs to do. And Pravi's looking and he's going, oh my God, I can see the head. I can see her hair. Because we knew our daughter was a girl. She'd been throughout the whole pregnancy. She'd given me her name already. So as crazy as that sounds. So he was looking at her head. He's crying. He's like, this is magical. Oh my God, it's so magical. And I'm like, her head, can you see? Because I couldn't feel entirely what was happening because there's been so much pressure at the opening of my vagina. Yeah.
And you were still like in the other zone and coming back to your head, the consciousness.
My levels of consciousness were changing. So I wasn't. It's also this amount of pressure you've been feeling in your body.
Yeah.
It's hard then to isolate. Is that a head crowning? Is how far out is the head, basically? But he was keeping a really good eye. And her head came out and he was just like, she's beautiful, this is magical. And she's obviously under the water. And we've got the whole thing on video, so we watch it. We can't wait till she's old enough to show her. But then so interesting how the brain kicks in. As her head's, I said, is she rotating? Is she rotating? Because I wanted to know that she was turning. Shoulders were going to unlock and she was going to. But he said, it's all perfect. She's rotating. And basically just rotated around and popped out into his hands. He caught her, immediately handed her to me. And we both just said, oh, she's here, it's Ruby, she's here. And we knew her. We knew who she was. We just were like, we've been expecting you, and kissing her. And it's just so unbelievable. So unbelievable. And he's just crying and I'm just crying. And then we really only had a few minutes because the water in the pool was getting cool.
Yeah.
And we wanted to get out of the pool and get her warm. So.
That's just amazing. That's beautiful. And with all the intensity, you'd never say that this is not something you'd want to do. You'd want to do it again, like a hobby, like you just said. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I would do it. I would do it once a year if I could.
Like a healing retreat.
Right. Honestly, with birth, I have a theory with birth. I think we have the birth that we need on some level for our soul's evolution. I'm not talking about at the small self personality level because that's a very harsh thing to deal with. But at a soul level, if we've called it in, I feel like I needed that experience of being completely brought to my knees to understand the reverence of this journey from maidenhood to mother. To say those 39 years, at this point I'm 40 when she's born, I think, that's gone now. You are a new version of yourself, a more beautiful version of yourself. This is your journey. But I had to walk through that portal. And I think for me, because it does take quite a lot for me to actually be confounded, that was the experience I needed. I needed to be really, really just shown the full length and breadth of the power that I held and all of the majesty of the universe in that moment.
The universe just does what it does. It brings you what you need.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then thereon, you held her, you both probably went to bed from the water.
I went to birth the placenta. So we got Pravi
yes, of course.
Helped me out of the pool because the placenta was still inside.
Yeah.
We clamped the cord. We wait for the cord to go white. She got all the cord blood. And then we dealt with the cord. Pravi cut the cord ceremonially. It was a really beautiful moment. We weighed her. We used little fish scales. We still use now for luggage and things. She loves that little scale actually. And I put her to my breast. We just basically we were so tired. I mean, at this point, 74 hours for me of labour. Fabi's barely slept, and our daughter's had a very long birth, so
Mhm.
or a long labour, and so we kind of just text everybody and said, she's here, we're going to go to sleep, and we had a good sleep. Placenta came out without any issues, very quick, few minutes, plop into the bowl.
Yeah.
Done.
You just instinctively went to deliver, like, birth the placenta, I would rather say.
Yeah, but because of the education I'd given myself,
Right.
I knew this was the final stage of labour and you needed to
Yeah.
go through. And these were the things that could help. For example, put some peppermint oil on the toilet. That's going to help you wee. Once you wee, then the body's going to do X, Y, and Z. Putting the baby to the breast can help. So all of these
Yes.
things I knew about. I prepared myself adequately, and I just felt like, right, let's do this now, and I can go and enjoy my baby. So she was with Fabi because obviously I needed just a moment, and I said to him, I'll be back in an hour maybe, and I was back in 2 minutes. There it is. And he's like, oh, that was quick, well done. So yeah, that was how we did it, and we just had a look to make sure there was no holes or anything.
Yes, you also learn how to check the placenta.
So we checked the baby. Of course, we checked her pulse and respiration and made sure that she was a good colour. We had a checklist prepared of all of the things we knew we needed to do to ensure that she was in really good health for us to feel secure about that. And she was absolutely perfect. Beautiful colour. She was an all right, she was an all right healthy weight. She was very good reflexes, good muscle tone. She was just, she was beautiful. So
yeah, that's amazing. And then you did you, like we were talking, you did plan to use the placenta, but yeah.
That was my intention. I really wanted to consume some of it in some way, whether we found a way to dry it or have some smoothies. Sadly, the power cut a few days after the birth, and our placenta was in the freezer, so it actually defrosted. And which wasn't, not exactly what you want. So we ended up using the placenta as nourishment for a plant. We planted a rose, a ruby rose, after my daughter, and we have a rose now forever. Because I think you've grown an extra organ in your body.
Yes. Sacred. That's the thing that runs. That's the thing that is the entire system of the baby. It's sacred, much like the entire birth and the baby is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's what gets you to birth. That's what gives you goosebumps. Story on story, story on story. It's just like you were saying all along, the gift and the power we have to be able to create life. And then, of course, we have the power to birth then.
Yeah, of course. And how dare anybody tell us that we don't? But when you start to examine the way that the culture now is and the way that birth has been industrialized and the amount of money that it generates and the way that it's portrayed in the media, I mean, for me, one of my strongest missions now is for people that are open to this conversation. I'm very much like, have a think about how you want to do it, because I can share with you that what you see in the movies is not a true reflection of birth, and that you are able to manage the situation. Humans wouldn't exist now if women couldn't manage birth. And one of my affirmations was, these contractions are not more powerful than me, they are me. They're coming from within me. I want to embrace this part of myself. I think so much fear is purposefully programmed into us from the beginning of our journeys into adulthood as women. As women, it's like you have to have this checkup. You need someone to tell you about your reproductive health. You don't know. Let me tell you. Take this birth control tablet. I won't tell you about the side effects. But you just take it, and we are handing over our power from such a young age because we don't know any better, and we truly believe it's for the best. And every mother making a decision about birth is making the decision that's best for their baby based on what they believe and understand. And every birth should be how the mother wants it, whether they want to have a C-section, whether they want to have a hospital birth. That should be their choice, and they should have informed consent. about what
Exactly.
that means for them and be put in their power throughout the entire process and consulted and treated with dignity.
Yes.
That's
And
how
on
I feel.
definitely. And on that note, we definitely need to have more and more options also on the table for the mothers to be able to choose not just one aspect that's been available everywhere, that you're not able to see the other aspects because it's just not visible to you or not available to you. So it's very important, and that's where your story, Becca, is going to help so many mothers see what it can also mean, what it can also be like.
We were met with so much fear from people who had a different understanding of birth. And after we had her and she was healthy as we knew she would be and everything was beautiful, people completely changed their tune. Wow, congratulations, you're amazing. I mean, my partner was a celebrity in his town for a good few months. He had the home birth. Wow, it was really like that, and you can see the change, the ripples of that change starting to make people go, so now I know 3 people who have birthed at home as a result of my story, just through sharing it, through knowing, hey, actually I could do that, I could tune into that part of myself, I'm no different
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And now I can sit down and write what all do I feel about it. And then if there's still some fear, I can work on it.
Right,
I
and
can.
that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, this is part of what I'm doing now. I'm offering this. It's pregnancy.
Yes,
Pregnancy
yes.
is shadow work. I mean, it's a small part of my offering, but it's something I think is really, really important. And as therapists, we don't want to work with big trauma throughout pregnancy because, of course, the bloodstream is being shared with the baby. So we don't want to release trauma into the bloodstream of the mother. Just
Mhm.
be clear with that. But there are ways I think that mothers can begin to address shadow aspects of themselves, fears, worries, and concerns throughout pregnancy, which will help them feel so empowered as they embrace that journey.
Yeah. And when do you plan to do it? When is it?
I'm currently, this is just part of my day-to-day offering. So I work as a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm trained in hypnotherapy, cognitive hypnotherapy actually, and a variety of other healing modalities. So I do things like emotional freedom, tapping therapy, EMDR, eye movement, reprocessing, and we're also holding some retreats in November and December. We've set the intention for that. And the theme of the retreats that's come through to me is it's called The Homecoming. So it's going to be a week-long journey for each person to come home to themselves. So a week of nourishing and pampering, but with therapeutic aspects. So a couple of workshops each day, movement, where the person will come back into their body and start to understand the deeper layers of who they are, go on a transformative journey. So by the end, they really feel like they've landed in that true essence of who they are at a soul level.
If the listeners want to reach out to you for any of this work, where do they find you?
They can find me. So I have my Instagram handle is probably a good place to start. You can DM me there. And that is my new Instagram I've launched is hello_divine_being. So it's
Okay.
hello divine being. And my website is my name, beccamcmahon.com. And maybe I can send you that. You can put it in.
Yes, I'll add them to the show notes so they can
If
reference it
anyone
from
just
there.
wants to reach out purely from a perspective of birth, wanting to just talk about their fears or communicate, I'm always open just to have a chat with anybody. So
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for offering that. That's so wonderful. It's women for women, a community. That's what we need right now.
absolutely. And it starts with us, doesn't it? It starts with
Yes,
us.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Becca. This was a nice conversation.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you. It's been really lovely.
If you like the podcast, please give us a rating or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or like it on all other platforms. It helps spread the word. There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.